say the word dating, and it brings to mind many different ideas. It's a status, an activity, it's even a rebirth. I think it takes a special person to want to study dating at all, especially those that help others navigate the dating water successfully. Today, Angela Holton, the author of The Conscious Dating Method, is bringing a perspective to help us steer our ships towards dating bliss. Now, after listening to this episode, you'll want to head to her Instagram or Linktree page, both named at Angela and Holton, and get yourself a ticket for her upcoming tour that starts next week, the 24th of October, in New York City. The tour is named The Conscious Dating Method. So without further delay, let's go. And today on Voices, we have Angela Holton. I have always been curious about dating. I've been dating my whole since teenage life, and I've been trying to figure it out. And a friend of mine said, you know what? If you want to learn something about dating, Angela Holton is a friend of mine. She knows exactly what you can do to be better at dating. So today I have Angela on, contributing and adding her expertise to the show. So I feel like no person can introduce themselves better than themselves. So Angela, thank you for being here, and I will let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh, thank you, Lewis. Thank you so much for having me. What you said was really lovely, and I'm so glad that we were connected. So I call myself a conscious dating and relationship expert. And as we talk and go through the conversation, I'll tell more about what the conscious part of it means and conscious dating. But, this was a title that I never really saw myself being fitted for at all, ever. I never thought I would be an expert or trying to understand dating relationships, giving advice or suggestions to people for dating. But it was an assignment and a calling, and I've stepped into it fully. And I have made understanding relationships really a really integral part of my life since childhood. I've always been fascinated with human behavior and psychology and understanding people and relationships. So it really isn't that foreign or far off that I would fall into something like this. But again, I never really thought that I would be a dating coach, but I love it. And I coach women primarily around the world to date better, but not just about dating tips. We go beyond dating tips. We go about transforming how we date and how we show up from the inside out. So I teach, I coach, I write, I blog, inspire, and hope I serve the best way that I can.
Excellent. And so one of the first questions, because of the topic I have, is how do you define dating?
Dating. Okay. So it's so funny. People are like, am I dating? Am I seeing someone? I think dating is when you are putting yourself out there, whether it's online dating or you're meeting people in places that you frequent, and you're going out to have an interaction with someone, dinner, conversation, drinks, museum, whatever that activity might be, you're out there meeting people. And people date frequently and people date infrequently. Maybe you have a date once a month, or maybe you date every week, or maybe you date a few times a week, or maybe you have had sort of a dry spell and you're not dating at all. And I really want to encourage women to get back out there dating. So dating is going out there with the intention of meeting someone for partnership, relationship, or whatever your need and desire is. Conscious dating is about being intentional about what you want. So people date for different purposes, but my main focus is helping women that want relationship to date with intentionality.
Okay, and so it actually begs the question to me, because you can go out and date, but you can also date while being in a relationship, right? Are those dynamics really different, or are they similar?
No, I mean, dating is spending time with the first person you date is yourself, always, whether
Okay.
you're single, partnered, coupled, married, divorced, the first person you date is yourself constantly. And I think when we're in partnership and relationship, we often forget that. But when we take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves, not from an egotistical way, but from a self-loving, compassionate way, we show up and we serve our partners and our relationships better. So let's start there, that we date ourselves first. And as effectively and lovingly as we date ourselves, we have that capacity to date lovingly and effectively with other people. So we're dating, we're nurturing, we're having communication, we're sharing transparency, vulnerability, intimacy, emotional intimacy, whatever physical intimacy means for you. Those are the components of dating and relationship. And those are the exact same components that we give to ourselves before and simultaneously when we're in relationship.
Okay, and so you made a mention of something, and I think that's key, is sort of focused on self-love. So you said dating yourself first. What are some examples of dating yourself look like?
Well, so dating yourself means, I want to sort of put it in really clear terms, and like whatever you would do and whatever it means for you to date someone else, looking good, smelling good, looking attractively. It starts off on the bare minimum of doing those things. Take yourself out on dates, find time for yourself, be interested in your own story, listen to your own vulnerability, communicate with yourself, release judgment and inner criticism, being your own best advocate and cheerleader, and self-criticism. So when we love ourselves and we want to be loving in a relationship, one of the biggest tasks is to change how we talk to ourselves. So when you're dating yourself, when you're loving yourself and embracing your imperfections without blame, without criticism, without self-hatred, and being so punitive toward yourself. So self-love is not just, and dating yourself is not just, although I do think that's important and that's a component of it, especially if those are the things that are important for you in a dating relationship with someone else, make it a priority to give yourself those things as well. But it goes much deeper than that. Dating yourself is being your best friend, being your biggest romantic partner, intimate partner. You allow your pain and your grudges to come up, and can you treat them with delicacy, and can you be kind and gentle and forgiving? Forgiveness is a huge part of self-love at the same time.
Okay, so you mentioned and you talked about dating yourself, and I think your explanation for that is really good. Self-love is very important in dating. So because you coach people to date intentionally, and specifically when you talk about women to have relationships, what does date night look like in a relationship? Because if it's part self-love and then part of being in with someone else, how does date night really work for couples? Because I've heard friends say they're going on date night after they've been in a relationship for a while. So I'm kind of curious on your opinion about date night.
Yeah, when you're in a relationship with someone, our lives are busy, whether we're coupled or not. It's a lot to take care of just yourself. So, when you are in a partnership and you have children or whatever else, other responsibilities you have, it can pull away at the relationship and create distractions from the relationship. So date night are those moments, those times when a couple decide to shut out business, shut out the children, I lovingly shut out the children, and all the other distractions we have in life, and focus on their relationship, focus on what brought them together, spend uninterrupted time communicating, making eye contact, having fun, making the relationship a priority. It requires that. You have to feed what you want to grow, so you have to feed your relationship if you want it to constantly grow.
That's beautiful. And you made a mention earlier about childhood and that you saw some things when you were younger, maybe not specific things, but you saw or you gathered some energy from your childhood. So it's sort of a two-part question. What things in childhood do you remember that kind of helped you create the conscious dating method? And what is the conscious dating method?
Well, it's not like I created the conscious dating method from childhood. It's the understanding of people and relationships that was derived from when I was a child. I have always been a very introspective person. So I've always sought, to really understand who I am, my nuances, my flaws, imperfections, how to be a better human. I studied psychology and social work in undergrad and graduate school. So my predilection for that understanding of people fostered in childhood. So that stemmed from my own family dynamics and growing up as an only child. I mean, did I say an only child? Oh my goodness, if my siblings heard that, they're going to say, oh, she always thought or wanted to be an only child. No, sorry. I grew up as the youngest child in my family. So part of that was, I was a little shy as a child, and I had two older sisters in my household that sort of I kind of tagged along and followed a little bit, and they kind of spoke for me. And so I think in that silence I was kind of having my own inner dialogue at a very, very young age and studying people. And so being the youngest, when people speak for you, you discover your voice. Maybe some people never do discover your voice, but you discover your voice. And when you do, at least for me, it was a very empowering moment for me. And being able to exercise my voice and speak and share and understand, it made me seek understanding, sort of being the shy, quiet one. It kind of made me go inward. I wasn't an introvert, but I just, kind of paid more attention to other things. And so from that, I studied people and relationships. And when I say relationships, I don't mean romantic relationships. I mean relationships in general, people, family dynamics. That's just been my affinity. My parents divorced when I was young, and, that had its impact on me. And I was probably only about 5 or 6 when we actually geographically moved. We geographically relocated, and a lot of distance was created between, where I was growing up and my father. So I would see my dad not as frequently as a child would want and probably need to see a child. So through that, what was feeling like it was missing in my life, that also drew me inward, and that drew me to understand myself more, drew me to understand some of the sadness that I had of being separated from my father. So, having that sensitivity that was fostered from that grew into compassion for myself and compassion toward other people. And so I hope I answered that first part of your question.
No, it's beautiful because it showed how you took ownership of your thoughts, and you understood the environment around you, and you actually took power to create the environment you wanted. So I really, really like that. I was going to ask, a follow-up for that was specifically now knowing you were the youngest of your siblings, because you had siblings.
I did. I actually did.
Oh, what are some because that means you got to see people older than you date as well. So what are some, I guess, older mindsets that you witnessed or you saw that about dating that helped you sort of formulate the method you have now? Because I'm guessing you saw some things that people were doing before, maybe with your parents or your older siblings, and you're like, man, you know what, if they pulled that out and put that in, that might help.
Well, so it's not just dating. Let's go beyond. I mean, it's dating, yes, but it's relationships, it's commitment, it's marriage, it's divorce, it's all the things that I witnessed growing up that has played a part into who I am as a person, which then plays a part into who I become as a teacher, speaker, inspirer, and so forth. So unfortunately, I grew up witnessing a lot of divorce in my family. My mother's only sibling, her sister was divorced. My grandmother was divorced. And then my oldest sister was married when I was in high school and divorced pretty young also. So I witnessed a lot of divorce, which obviously I definitely internalized that on an unconscious and conscious level as to what I didn't want to repeat and what I did want to repeat. But because I didn't have that sort of dynamic played out in front of me of a happy marriage or two people, coexisting even in a family, I really have had to learn on my own. And so, yeah, I've watched my older siblings, I've watched family members get married. But again, it's just been my drive and desire of understanding myself and understanding my reason and my purpose for being here, and always seeking higher counsel in my spirituality and my faith, and to becoming the woman I want to be, and how, in becoming that, how I want to show up first and foremost to myself, and then to the partner and the relationship that I attract. So yes, it's been watching other people, but more than that, it's being intuitive with myself. It's trusting myself. It's just this intuitive awareness that I guess I can say I feel in a way as my gift, that I'm always going inward and trying to understand myself and others. So it's not so much dating that I witness, it's more like the marriages that I've witnessed that I'm like, okay. And then when you see a lot of divorce, you take those into consideration. You're like, well, okay, I don't want my marriage to look that way. I want it to look this way. And I encourage people to do that now, is to find marriages that you admire and respect, and talk to married couples and see, what makes their marriage work. And because marriage is practice, it's preparation. And I think the reason why we see over 50% of marriages end in divorce is there is no manual, there's no tool book, there's no guide, there's no source, there's none of that. There's some sources, there's biblical sources and, religious instruments. So you can follow those, and people do, but there's no real manual to tell you, okay, this is what you do in a relationship, this is what you don't do. But I do think if we take the time to pause and become conscious human being, which is being awake, which is being conscious and aware and intentional about yourself. It's being mindful, it's being present. When we can show up better with the way we think and the way that we speak to first ourselves and then to others, and when we're mindful in that place, we create healthier relationships. So, there's do's and don'ts of dating, but I think each person, is different and each relationship is different. So I don't like to create sort of this conversation that says, okay, do this when you're dating, don't do this when you're dating. Because people who've done different things have been married 50 years, and people who've done things that didn't work, their marriage lasted a week or a month, so there's no blueprint, but I think that there is a blueprint to being a kind, loving, emotionally intelligent, compassionate human being. And when we get back to being that, we improve our relationship with ourselves and we improve relationships with everyone.
And hearing you say that and showing how you actually talked about being a teacher, I want to talk about your tour. You have a tour coming up, and what you're saying resonates. So tell us a little bit about the tour, I guess, in the time allowing, and the locations that you're gonna be in as well.
Sure. So the conscious dating method tour is really, the conscious dating method, which I don't think I answered a while back, is, dating with the intention of becoming the person that you're seeking, right? It's cultivating the most important relationship that you'll ever have, and that's a relationship with yourself. So if we shift that mindset when we're out there dating, literally going out dating, whether we're online, to, okay, this person is not going to fulfill me. I'm going out there to date and to learn about myself, to prepare myself for partnership. We show up differently. We don't show up with a place of desperation or loneliness or neediness for a relationship. We show up as someone who's complete and whole and wanting to attract in a person that's whole and complete. So that shift is important to happen, whether you're male or female, if you want to attract a higher quality relationship, a healthier relationship. But when you're showing up to dating from a place of lack, from a place of neediness, from a lack of self-worth, you're going to attract that in your dating. And so conscious dating is about helping you, create these principles and these tools to help you understand yourself first before you can go out there and really date and know who you are, what you want, what you're attracted to. What do your relationship patterns look like all the time? Are you dating the same Joe Blow every single time? And if so, you're not going to change that until you get to the root cause of why you're attracted to Joe Blow. So the conscious dating method is helping women answer these deep questions about their relationships with themselves, the relationship they've experienced in their past, so that they can draw the dots and make some connections and be conscious and mindful to pivot and make a different decision, go in a different direction. And so it's really about becoming your greatest love. And when you come from that place, like attracts like, you're going to attract love that meets you on that same frequency and vibration that you're putting out. And, it's so insidious because people often think, well, I like myself, I love myself, I do this, I do that. But deep down, there's a lack of self-worth or feeling that you deserve certain things. So even if you feel in this sort of outer shell that you're worthy, you're deserving, but in the inside, everything in your life really reflects something differently than what you're saying or what you think you're projecting, then there's some deeper inner work that needs to be done that's misaligned than what people think. Does that make sense? Like, people can say, yeah, I feel good about myself, I'm this and that, but yet everything they attract in their lives is a bad relationship, someone who, predatory relationships, people who, violate them or are abusive in some form or fashion. Those type of patterns and relationships go back to one's sense of self-worth. Again, I'm not saying that someone causes someone to be abusive in any form or fashion, but when we are drawn to that repetitive cycle in a relationship, it bears us looking inward to saying, what am I really feeling about myself that I'm attracting the same type of partner?
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah. So the conscious dating is like really being conscious, like not sleeping, like a lot of people are sleepwalking in life, and they're sleepwalking in dating, and they're sleepwalking in relationships. So conscious is like literally like shaking you and waking you up and saying, okay, like, this is my pattern that shows up in how I treat men and how I treat women. Okay, this is how my mom made me feel growing up, and it shows up in my relationship, my daddy. Like, I'm trying to take the conversation of dating much deeper than the dating tactics of when you call someone back, when's the first date, Do you text? When's it okay to go to bed with him? Like, those are great questions, but none of that has changed the landscape of dating.
It
None
doesn't
of
give
it.
you a better date either. It doesn't give you a better relationship.
Doesn't give you a better relationship, a better marriage, none of it. So, okay, fine. Yeah, we can talk about, what should you wear on the first date and whether you should call him. We can talk about that, but that's not going to change, how you show up if he ghosts you or if he doesn't respond to you or if you want to share a part of yourself that you feel ashamed of or guilty of. Let's talk about those things. Let's talk about what your self-sabotage looks like so that when you do meet Mr. Wonderful, and if you really do want to meet Mr. Wonderful, because some people are more afraid of what they want than what they think they are, they want something, but fear can keep things away from us too. So the conscious dating is really being mindful of, what am I afraid of? Am I afraid of, being in a relationship is being vulnerable, and it's saying, I'm giving you permission to hurt me, so to speak. So you can't be reserved and hold back your heart. That's the thing. Like, if we want to embrace love and be in these amazing relationships, guess what? That requires putting your heart completely out on the line, completely. And some people are frightened to death of that. And so if you are, when someone shows up who is Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful, and you're really afraid of connecting on that level, consciously or even unconsciously, you may find a way to sabotage that connection in that relationship. So I want to help women in this conscious dating method become aware when they're sabotaging their own relationships. And
And so the tour dates and the locations, because I want people, like, I love what you're saying, and I'm one of those guys that want women to be really, really empowered. I was raised by my mom alone, so I don't know, maybe that's why I have an affinity for women to be strong. So I want people to know when and where for your tour.
Yes. All right. So we're launching in New York City on October 24th at Mindful Harlem. We're going to be in Washington, D.C. on November 5th at the Globe Club Yoga Studio. We're going to be in Chicago on November 7th at the Silver Room. And we're going to be in Denver. I think, I don't have it off the top of my head. I think it's November 16th or 17th. And that venue is being confirmed. That will be the end of 2019. And then in 2020, we're going to do LA, Atlanta, Miami. And then we're planning and hoping to add different cities as 2020 plays out. My goal is to really touch and inspire as many women as I can. And I approach women because, that's who I relate to. I'm a woman. The woman is my story. I can connect with her. I know what she's been through. I know her experience. So this tour is for women. Doesn't mean I'm never going to coach men or work with men. I do work with men individually. But right now, the conscious dating method is for women. And planning to take it internationally as well next year to Toronto and London.
That's beautiful. Well, I mean, I think women everywhere can take a hold of the message you have of loving yourself first and then sort of going forward and choosing to be in a relationship. So I have two more questions and then I'm all done. And I'll leave the final thought with you because I love for the voices to have the final voice. And so there was a video that I saw last week or a couple of days ago where it was a man on a train and he put a table and flowers in front of a woman. And it was meant to be funny. It was obviously sort of set up. And while I watched the man, and I took it as him being brave and, kind of going after what he wanted. Also, the focus, if you pay attention, is the woman, where the woman was shocked a bit, and then it sort of progressed until the end. And so I don't know. I think you had a chance to watch that video, and I just kind of wanted your take on the woman, less of the man, because I totally understand what the man was doing, but I kind of wanted a woman's take on what he did and how that is that not maybe positive or negative, but an evaluation of it.
Right. Okay. So we know that it was sort of satirical, right?
Yes.
With some comedy there. So, just from a woman's reflection, I think, she was definitely feeling a little cautious, like, okay, who's this guy sitting next to me on the subway? This is kind of weird. He's pulling out a table and a tablecloth. And, so I think she was definitely taken aback. But let's take the joke side out of it and look at it as though what I don't want to happen, what I think has happened, and I want to reverse this, is sometimes I believe men and women have lowered their standards and expectations of how men or women are showing up to the dating game. And if a man pulls out all those stops for you, I want a woman to know she deserves it and not be surprised by it or uncomfortable. But, again, you don't want a man who's pushing too quickly or too fast, but expect him to treat you that way. And knowing that you deserve that, and not settle for these, again, I think coffee dates are great. I think quick little meetings are great. But, if he's not showing up as a gentleman and treating you the way you deserve, he doesn't deserve your time or attention at all. No matter how attractive he is, no matter how great he might look on paper, if he's not showing up in pursuit of you and treating you like the queen that you are, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. So I think he was showing up as a king in sort of that little sketch there. And I think she was filling it out. And I didn't see the end of the clip. I think you mentioned that someone mentioned that she drinks the wine. I didn't see that.
She does.
Okay.
She takes the drink at the end.
Yeah, so she finally and that was her way of saying, and what I really loved about the video is he was doing it as a gesture, but he wasn't aggressive with it. He wasn't forceful with it. It's kind of like, here, I'm going to do this. And hey, here's a drink. He didn't hand it to her. He just kind of put it there and let her know, if you want to take it, take it. And she did. So it would be nice to see some of them. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist, but I do I like chivalry. I like chivalry. And I think that video was a great example of chivalry. And I would love if we got back to that. And, women sort of, if that's what they like, if they require that of their men. And if men, want a woman who appreciates and respects those things, that they show up in that way. I think I might be a little old fashioned in that way.
Well, old fashioned has been around for a long time, so it seems like it's probably tried and tested. So I think it probably still works.
I think so. And I mean, some women, look, and it's not like, it's just being a gentleman. It's being a gentleman. And dating is about getting to know one another. And it's not like, you just do these things and then that's it. You fall into a routine and you don't do the things that you used to do. I think that's why people date when they're in marriages and relationship, because you constantly have to pour into your partner. You have to pursue that person. You have to remind your partner of what drew you to that relationship in the beginning. And that's why date nights are important. And yeah, I hope that video goes viral, and I hope that more men or pursuers, that they'll do some more shock value, surprising things that you don't see happening a lot in the dating arena.
Yeah, I made the joke that I would do that because my personality is one where I would do something like that just because but mine would be more of an impulse. His was planned, obviously. So last question before I asked for your final thought. So where can people find you? Because I know you have a few things on the internet, but I want you to spell it out so that people can hear from you. And what sort of literature or offerings can people get from Angela?
Oh, that's so great. Thank you for asking that. So my website is lovesanctuary.com, right? Love Sanctuary is your inner sanctum. So that came to me as divine guidance. So lovesanctuary.com. I'm most active on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is Angela N, as in
Nancy. Yeah.
Holton, Holton, and that's it, Angela N. Holton. And yeah, thanks for asking about literature. So I actually am writing on my first solo publication. I've co-authored 3 or 4 other books, but I'm working on my own solo that should be launching next month, October. And that's on the Conscious Dating Method workbook. And it's a journal. And the journal is intended to be sort of a precursor for women to start delving deeper into their relationship nuances and emotional nuances and understanding their patterns. So really spending a lot of time on it. It's a lot of deep dive questions, helping women to just look inward and look outward at the same time at how their relationships are showing up, and taking accountability. We all have to take accountability for the type of people that are showing up in our lives. We can't blame this guy did that and he did that. Well, we have to say, okay, who am I showing myself to be that I'm attracting these type of men, or that men feel that they can treat me this type of way. So we are constantly giving permission to people on how to treat us. So when we come from a place of confidence and self-respect, and that's what we command from other people. So the workbook, I'm excited about it. It will be available on Amazon when it's launched, and it will also be available at each workshop tour. So you can get a signed copy in person if you meet me in one of the cities where I'll be joining.
Awesome. And you can get tickets for your events on your Instagram page as well. So with that, I love to hear the final thought from you. But what can you leave as a final thought in terms of relationship building? Because what I heard a common thread with you is, yes, dating is cool, going out with people is good to interact, but your final thought on relationship building, because that sounds like what you are really good at.
Yeah, I mean, relationships require inner work, so whether you decide to do that inner work before you're in partnership or after you're in partnership, at some point it needs to be done. And it behooves the relationship for you to do the inner work before you meet someone, right? There are a lot of obstacles and challenges in a relationship that you might mitigate if you do this inner work first. And to me, the inner work is a lifelong journey. We never stop growing, building, changing, transforming, achieving. And when you have a partner, when you're both doing that, and hopefully your goals and growth are in the same direction, you really foster a beautiful connection. Albeit I'm not married, I have men in my life that I have felt very married to. And, true love never dies. And people that are your friends and best friends, relationships that I've experienced, they're in my life to this day. And I feel like I've had marriages with them. I feel as though they continue to show up to me as if in some way I'm a wife. While we may not work out in a relationship, there are other components to it that I've experienced very deep, beautiful, loving intimacy and unconditional love. So do the work. Whether you do the work now or later, you're going to have to do the work if you want a fulfilling and healthy relationship. And so I just want to encourage women and men listening to, be inspired to be willing to change. Change is not easy, but it's possible. If we're intentional and mindful and present, we can change, and we can make better choices, and we can treat people more kindly. We can treat ourselves more kindly. We live in a very chaotic world, and the change of that begins by changing our own inner chaos. It really does start with each person. And I'm on that mission to touch as many hearts as I can to, again, the conscious dating is really just a modicum and the really micro of my macro. I really want to help improve the world that we live in. And I believe we improve the world that we live in by improving the relationships that we have. And we improve the relationships that we have by improving ourselves. So that's really my ultimate mission in life.
Angela, I have a tear in my eye. I'm being very honest
No,
with you.
no, don't do that.
but thank you so much. And I don't have anything else because I'm just so speechless.
Honestly, I know that may sound so cliche, like, we heal the world one heart at a time, but it's absolutely true. And maybe I'm one of those crazy people, they say, people who think they can change the world actually do. I really feel like what the work that I'm doing and I'm so passionate about really can create a change. And it's not just me. I want your help. And thank you, Louis, for having me on the podcast, because you're in service in helping me get this message out. And the more we each do this, and the more we each say, I'm going to take on this assignment to better myself, then we better the world we live in, we better everything. That's what I want.